Welcome to Learn More. In the previous lesson, we learned about psychological method of data collection, and under psychological method of data collection, we looked at just two types, two instruments that can be used in data collection. We looked at interview and observation. So we looked at the meaning of interview. We learned about the conditions for using interview. We learned about the guide for conducting a good interview. We learned about the meaning of observation, the types of observation, and conditions for using observation. So in this lesson, we are still looking at the topic psychological method of data collection, but we are looking at case study and clinical method. We are looking at case study and clinical method. I told you in the previous lessons that we'll be splitting the psychological method of data collection, we'll be splitting it into parts so that we can be able to understand the various instruments and tools that we can use to collect data. So in this lesson, we are looking at case study and clinical method. So the learning objective of this study is, by the end of the lesson, the learners should be able to give the meaning of case study, mention the merit and demerits of case study, define clinical method, and list steps adopted in clinical method. So these are the objectives that we want to achieve at the end of this lesson. So let's look at case study. Case study is used to make a direct study on one case from all other related subject areas. So case study is used to make a direct study on one case from all other related subject areas. Let's say we have so many subject areas, but we want to specify it to one case. We want to specify it to just one subject area. Let's say we have so many subject areas. We have maths, we have English, we have chemistry, we have physics, we have all these are subject areas. So but we want to focus on one case study. We want to focus on one. So if we have like 20 subjects and we are picking a case study on mathematics, so we are using mathematics, we are dealing with mathematics, we are finding information about mathematics, we are gathering information about mathematics. So mathematics now becomes our case study. Now, case study is done in order to direct resources and get good results from that study. So if we have resources that would have used to gather data from subject areas. Now, if we have these resources, we know that if we apply these resources to just one case study, we could be able to get adequate data, and the resources could be able to be enough for us to gather our data and go on with our research. Let's say we have we want to carry out a research in so many subjects. Let's say we have 20 subjects, and we have resources that could be used for this research, but the resources is not really adequate, it's not really enough. But if we combine these resources together and we use the resources for just one case study, just one subject area, it could be enough. So that is why case study is very important. Case study is very good. So case study is done in order to direct resources and get good results from that study. Instead of splitting the resources into so many splitting the resources into so many subject areas, we could bring the resources together and apply the resources to just one case study and get a very good result from that study. So let me give you an example. If you are to carry out a research or a study on primary schools in Lagos State, let's say we want to carry out a research or a study on primary schools in Lagos State, we can narrow down our study by saying we want to make it a case study. We want to now make it a case study of a specific local government in Lagos State. So we would now say that I want to carry out a research on selected primary schools in a specific local government in Lagos State. Let's say we are using Etiosa local government in Etiosa local government area of Lagos State. So by so, we are directing our resources and study to a specific location. We are directing our resources, we are directing the study to a specific location instead of picking Alimosho local government, Ojo local government, so many other local governments in Lagos State. So we can just narrow it down to just one local government in Lagos State. Now direct the resources we have to that local government in Lagos State and conduct the research or the study. Now let's look at the merits of case study. Case study provides a deep study. It provides a deep study. So when we are carrying out a case study research, it provides a deep study. That is, you could be able to make a deep study of whatever research you are carrying out, because all the resources and everything is directed to just one particular subject area. And number two, case study is very effective for proper identification, for diagnosis and provision of adjustment of children problem. So if we are carrying out a case study on psychological method of data collection and we are applying it to psychology now, when we are doing a case study on children, it is very good in order to identify the problems that they face. Information can be obtained from various sources. In case study, information can be obtained from various sources, and information can be used to render proper educational and personal guidance. So through the information we can get from case study, we can give good guidance. So let's look at the demerits of case study. The demerits of case study. So as case study has merit, it also has demerits. So number one, it can only be used by specified trained teachers or personnel. So case study can be used by no other person but someone that is trained. You must be trained in order to understand case study, in order to be able to use case study. Now number two, case study, data can be easily influenced. In case study, data can be easily influenced. That is, the data we get from case study, it can be easily influenced. And number three, the result is limited to the case being studied. The result we get from the case study is limited to only that case that is being studied. I gave you an example the other time that we want to carry out a research on primary schools in Lagos State, and we are bringing it down, we are narrowing it down, we are bringing out a case study by saying that we are using a specified local government in Lagos State, which is Etiosa local government. So if we are using Etiosa local government, then the results we get from that study is only limited to Etiosa local government. So every other local government in Lagos State apart from Etiosa would not be reflected on that study. So that's one of the demerits of case study. And number four, there is a problem of analysis. There could be a problem of analysis in case study. So we have looked at case study. Let's look at clinical method. Clinical method is commonly adopted by psychologists to provide insights to problem. This study entails a deep study of an individual to expose the underlying cause of misbehavior through a careful observation of the behavior of that individual. So in clinical method, you are observing that individual in order to understand the behavior of the individual. You are trying to diagnose the individual so that you can prefer the appropriate treatment that individual needs. But you are observing the individual. Clinical method makes use of both the method of diagnosis and treatment. In diagnosis, you are trying to understand what could be the problem of that individual. Then treatment, you are providing solution to that individual. Examples of problem include phobia, shyness, nervousness, telling lies, sex offenses, truancy, etc. So these are some problems that clinical method can be applied to get good solution. So there are some steps adopted in clinical method. So let's look at the steps that are adopted in clinical method. Number one, preparation of case study. So we have talked about case study before. So you now understand what case study is. So you are preparing a case study. You are preparing a case study. Then number 2, the study of the environment. You study the environment where you have such cases. You are studying the environment of the case study. And number 3, direct observation of the individual during interview. So you are directly observing the individual. You are looking at the person. You want to understand how the person reacts, the body language, and so many other things that you'll be looking out for when you are conducting that research. And number 4, psychological examination with the help of certain tests and techniques. So you do your psychological examination. Now you are using some tests, you are using some techniques in order to arrive at the desired data that you would need from that study. So in summary, we have learned about the meaning of case study. We have looked at the merits and demerits of case study, and we have also looked at clinical method, and we looked at the steps that are adopted in clinical method. And in the next lesson, yes, we are still on the psychological method of data collection, and we'll be looking at introspection method and correlation method. Introspection method and correlation method. So see you in the next lesson.